Every extinct empire had one thing in common. They provoked humanity. The pattern was discovered by accident. Dr. Ilya Sorvan, a Tessari historian with 4 centuries of academic tenure, had spent the last 60 years compiling a comprehensive database of every galactic empire that had risen, dominated, and ultimately vanished from the historical record. There were 47 in total. 47 civilizations that had once controlled entire star systems, commanded fleets that darkened skies, built monuments so vast they were visible from neighboring galaxies. All 47 were gone. Ilya had mapped their timelines, their military strategies, their economic structures, their cultural philosophies. He'd analyzed resource depletion, internal corruption, technological stagnation, and environmental collapse. Every conventional explanation checked some boxes, but none explained the complete picture. Then his research assistant, a young Selvari named Kyle, ran a cross-reference that nobody had thought to run before. "Dr. Sorvan," Kyle said one morning, his silver skin unusually pale. "I found something." Ilya looked up from his datapad. "What kind of something?" Kyle projected a timeline onto the office wall. 47 empires, 47 collapse points. And next to each one, a single annotation that repeated with horrifying consistency. "Every empire that went extinct," Kyle said slowly, "had a recorded confrontation with humanity within 3 centuries of its collapse." Ilya stared at the wall. "Everyone?" "Every single one." The office was very quiet for a long time. "That could be coincidental," Ilya said carefully. "Humans are widespread. They interact with nearly every major civilization at some point." "I thought so too," Kale said. "So I narrowed the parameters. I excluded minor diplomatic friction, trade disagreements, cultural misunderstandings, anything below a threshold of active hostility directed at human populations." He adjusted the projection. 39 of the 47 empires didn't just interact with humanity. They deliberately targeted human worlds, displaced human colonies, or attempted to subjugate human populations. Ilya sat down. "And the other 8? "Threatened Earth directly." The silence returned, heavier this time. Ilya pulled up the first case. The Varathi Dominion, a sprawling empire that had controlled 11 star systems for nearly a millennium. Technologically superior to every neighboring civilization. Military capability rated at Tier 1. Considered permanently unassailable by every strategic assessment of its era. In the year 3412, the Varathi had annexed 3 human colony worlds on their border, declaring the inhabitants primitive labor assets. The humans didn't respond with a fleet, they responded with patience. Within 2 decades, human engineers embedded within Varathi infrastructure had made themselves so essential that removing them would have caused systemic collapse. Human diplomats had cultivated alliances with 6 species the Varathi had previously subjugated. Human cultural influence, music, food, storytelling, had spread through Varathi civilian populations so thoroughly that an entire generation of Varathi youth identified more closely with human values than with their own empire's ideology. The Varathi Dominion didn't fall in battle. It dissolved from within, gently, irreversibly, like sugar in warm water. Ilya scrolled to the next case, and the next, and the next. The Helix Collective had attempted to erase human settlements on 3 frontier worlds. Within a century, human counterdiplomacy had fractured the collective's hive-mind consensus, introducing the concept of individual identity to a species that had never conceived of it. The collective didn't collapse. It transformed. Its members chose independence. The empire simply chose to stop existing. The Krathani Empire had blockaded Earth's solar system for 40 years, attempting to starve humanity into submission. Humans responded by developing closed-loop resource systems so efficient that they emerged from the blockade more technologically advanced than when it began. They then shared those technologies freely with every species the Krathani had oppressed. The Krathani's subject worlds defected within a single generation. "They never respond the way empires expect," Kale murmured, scrolling through case after case. "No massive retaliation, no apocalyptic weapons, they just adapt. And then they connect with everyone around the aggressor until the aggressor is standing alone." Ilya leaned back in his chair. "It's not a military strategy," he said quietly. "It's a survival philosophy. They don't destroy empires. They make empires irrelevant." Kyle hesitated. Should we publish this? Ilya considered the question. The implications were staggering. Every current galactic power, every ascendant civilization with ambitions of expansion, would read this paper and arrive at the same conclusion. Don't provoke the humans, not because they would burn your worlds, not because they would unleash some devastating weapon, but because they would do something far more dangerous. They would make your own people love them more than they loved you. Yes, Ilya said, we publish. The paper appeared in the Galactic Historical Review 3 months later. It was titled, Convergent Collapse, Common Factors in Imperial Extinction Events. The abstract was dry and academic. The conclusion was anything but. It became the most cited paper in galactic history within a single year. Ambassadors referenced it in negotiations. Military strategists revised entire doctrines around it. 3 civilizations quietly withdrew expansion plans that would have encroached on human territory, not out of fear, but out of something more profound. Recognition. At a diplomatic reception 6 months after publication, Ilya found himself standing beside the human ambassador to the Tsari Republic, a calm, unassuming woman named Elena Vargas. I read your paper, she said, sipping something amber from a small glass. And? She smiled. You made us sound very strategic, very calculated. Aren't you? Elena looked out the window at the stars, the same stars that 47 empires had once claimed to own. No, she said softly. We're just stubborn, and we genuinely like people, even the ones trying to push us around. She took another sip. Turns out that's harder to fight than any fleet. Ilya studied her for a moment. This small, quiet human who represented a species that had outlasted every empire that ever tried to diminish them. Ambassador, he said carefully, does it concern you that your species has been connected to the collapse of every major empire in recorded history? Elena set down her glass. No, she said, because we didn't end any of them. They ended themselves. We just offered their people something better. She looked at him with eyes that held no malice, no triumph. Only a warmth so steady it felt like gravity. That's the part empires never understand, she said. You can conquer a species with force, but you can't compete with one that makes the galaxy feel like home.